What's up, my beautiful Rosebeard Maine-iac here with NBA game picks and spreads for Saturday, March 23rd. NBA action, not to be outdone by the college basketball that's been going on these last few days. Upsets like UC Irvine, Minnesota. That's why I love college basketball. Not so much the NBA, although there have been some dramatic upsets this season, like said UC Irvine over Kansas State. Will there be any today? Let's find out. We got the Boston Celtics at the Charlotte Hornets. Boston currently favored by 4 here. This could very well turn into a battle of the point guards, but it all depends on who plays. This is going to the point to where the Celtics realistically aren't going to get out of the 5th seed unless Indiana or Philly slip. But I still think they try. Even with injuries, I don't think the Charlotte Hornets have enough overall to push past the Celtics. I do think the Celtics win. A 4-point spread is awfully reasonable here. I would take them up to 5.5 just because where I don't know who is going to rest. I wouldn't extend it too far, especially with the history given the Celtics have struggled against lesser teams so far this year. Then you got the Wizards hosting the Heat. Washington's currently favored by 1 here. The Heat really need this win here to remain in contention for their playoff spot. But I'm going to pick Washington. They are currently favored by 1. The ESPN matchup predictor does have them as favorites to win. I think that is a perfect spread here. I think this could very well come down to a last shot attempt, whether it's a make or a miss. I think it's going to be an exciting game. Like I said before, though, the Heat absolutely need to win this one. The Magic are getting hot on their heels, especially after a win against the Grizzlies. The Magic are currently 35-38, so a loss here ties the Heat with the Magic. Okay, the 76ers at the Hawks. If the Hawks win this one, I will eat a rotten egg, because holy shit, the 76ers still have crap to play for. I can very well guarantee, given the 76ers' history against the Boston Celtics, not saying they're going to avoid the Celtics, I think they would prefer trying to grab the 3rd seed and keeping the 3rd seed to avoid a difficult first round matchup. And I'm not to demean the Pistons or anything like that, but I think the 76ers want to probably warm up a little bit before they take on the Celtics. The Hawks, as good as they have been in spots, as good as John Collins and Trae Young have been in spots, overall I don't think they have enough talent. They don't really have anybody that matches up well with Joel Embiid either, which is another terrifying prospect. Be interesting to see though if come this season in the draft where the Hawks pick, will they get the number 1 overall pick somehow and grab Zion Williamson as maybe a power forward center type, someone who's strong, muscular, can pair well with John Collins in the paint, who knows? Or will they get a later pick and pick Taco Fall if he declares for the draft, who's 7'6", 310 pounds. Now he's 7'6", but he looks scrawny and he's 310 pounds. If he bulked up, that dude would about be 340 pounds running down the court. That would terrify that living hell out of me. Especially if I was like Isaiah Thomas, like a 5'5" point guard. Whew, nightmares. Philadelphia is favored by 8.5. This game's on NBA TV, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. For those of you interested in watching, I'm picking the 76ers to win and cover. And speaking of the draft, you have the Bulls, who are in an excellent position to nab one of the premier picks. Maybe they pick R.J. Barrett. That would be interesting to see. I think he'd be a great compliment to their team. But the Jazz favored by 10.5, playing for that one of those elusive West spots, especially one of the higher seeds, maybe get home court in one of the first rounds. They're going to have to win this one. This is a game against a bad team that they're going to have to win. If they start losing against bad teams like that, that is not the mojo you want in the first round of the playoffs. 10.5 point spread does seem kind of large with the game being in Chicago, so I'm going to take the Bulls to cover here, at least the spread. I know that sounds odd given the fact that Gobert doesn't really have a matchup on the Bulls, because Gobert is a beast and Donovan Mitchell can probably outshoot anybody on the Bulls, but I still think the Bulls will at least hang in. Realistically, I would have to say it'd probably be about a 6-7 point game. So if the spread does drop to maybe a 7.5 6.5 range, then I'd probably pick the Jazz to cover. But until then, I don't feel comfortable at 10.5. Then you got the Timberwolves at the Grizzlies. Grizzlies by 1.5. Battle of the centers here. Karl-Anthony Towns against Jonas Valanciunas. Difficult part for the Timberwolves is everybody they shut down. Robert Covington, Jeff Teague, Luol Deng, Derrick Rose. All of them just down. Avery Bradley Miles is out for the Grizzlies. But I do think the exciting thing here is going to definitely be Anthony Towns versus Valanciunas. Difference maker here, though, is not going to be either one of them. Although who wins that duel could very well decide who wins the game. I'm going to have to go with Mike Conley of the Grizzlies. Favored by 1.5. It is a very reasonable spread. I don't think this will come down to a last-second shot. This game, more realistically, will probably come down to a team being down probably 5 or 6 in the final minute or so, and then fouling, trying to make a shot, fouling, trying to make a shot. That's how I really see this game ending, but it should still be close. Then you got the Mavericks at the Warriors. Warriors favored by 13.5, and unlike the Jazz, I feel comfortable with the Warriors being favored by 13.5. Although the Mavericks do have the ultra-talented Luka Doncic, if, let's say, they were fully healthy and Porzingis was playing, and whoever else, Tim Hardaway, whatever their starting lineup would be when they're fully healthy, I would probably be more comfortable picking the Mavericks to at least cover the spread. And although Steph Curry is not certain to play tonight, I should say, especially with rest being a priority going into the playoffs, I'm still going to pick the Warriors, whether it's Cousins, Durant, Thompson, Green, even Iguodala. I don't see the Mavericks containing anybody. It should be a blowout. I think this could realistically go up to a 25-point victory. But if that's the case, you know Steve Kerr, he's just going to pull the starters. That's probably the most dangerous thing about this spread is late in the game, will he pull his starters, and will that make it so the Mavericks catch up and cover the spread? You have the Pistons at the Trailblazers. Trailblazers by 5, battling for one of the premier playoff spots in the West. Trailblazers currently 44-27, a very, very respectable record indeed. Part of the back-to-back with the Hawks 76ers. This one's actually quality, because this one's actually 2 playoff teams. Now, no dissing the 76ers Hawks matchup, but if I had to pick one for NBA TV, I'd maybe pick one with a little bit more oomph, like the Heat Wizards, where it has major implications for the Heat, not so much for the 76ers, and the Hawks are kind of, just out of it. But the Pistons Trailblazers is incredibly important, because with a loss here, the Pistons only are 2 games ahead of the Heat and Magic, or 2.5 or so like that. With a win, they increase their lead, make it even more likely they're in the playoffs. Trailblazers, they don't want to fall into that pit of the 4 or 5 teams down in the bottom of the West. They want to stretch away from them, so a win is vitally important. 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time for those of you interested in watching NBA TV. Portland's favored by 5. I do think they win. I do think they cover. I believe C.J. McCollum is still, he's still out for this matchup. It's good to get him healthy, get him rest into the playoffs anyway. But that being said, Damian Lillard, I really don't see a good matchup on the Pistons for him, although they have Blake Griffin and they have Andre Drummond, who match up really well with Nurkic and Aminu and Harkless and stuff like that. I think Damian Lillard is going to be the difference maker here. Then you have the Suns at the Kings. Kings by 10.5. Kings absolutely have to win this game. That is no exaggeration. There are only 11 games left for the Kings. They are currently at 35-36. If they won out, they would be 46-36. And currently, 8th place in the West is 42-31. So that would mean the Spurs would just have to be a hair under 500. Or if the Spurs go 500 at all, the Kings are automatically eliminated. Even if the Kings went out. So this is a must-win game for the Kings, being 6 games behind the Spurs with only 11 left. It is crucial. And the Kings, interestingly enough, are the only Western Conference team still alive for the playoffs that aren't currently in the playoffs, with Minnesota and LA being eliminated in the last couple days. Also being alive for the Eastern Conference playoffs are the Washington Wizards, Charlotte Hornets, and Orlando Magic, with realistically the Washington Wizards being eliminated but mathematically they're not. But just like the Kings, they'd have to go perfect. 10.5 point spread does seem large, but I feel comfortable enough picking this, just because I feel like overall the Kings are a more talented team. With no Warren or Oubre, I do feel the shooting of the Suns will be a little bit disappointing. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you are new. I will see you guys in the next one, and you guys enjoy some March Madness. I know I'm actually going to do that right now. Peace.